Flight attendant kicked a black CEO's suitcase minutes. Later, she lost her job forever. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. The cabin was silent. First class, 38000 feet above the ground, polished white light reflecting off chrome and quiet pride. Then came a sound like a slap across glass. Thud. A suitcase burst open at the flight attendant's heel, spilling papers, folded clothes, and the quiet dignity of the woman it belonged to. You think you're equal? Samantha Hayes snarled, her uniform flawless, her anger rehearsed. Her heel pressed against the side of the open case, scattering a silk blouse across the aisle. A man in seat 2B chuckled under his breath. Someone whispered, "Oh my God," but Samantha didn't stop. This is first class, not lost baggage. Across from her, Evelyn Ross didn't move. Her face calm, posture, straight eyes steady as marble. She didn't reach for the papers. She didn't explain. She simply sat there, one hand resting on her lap, the other closing the folder that had landed at her feet. Samantha's voice sliced through the quiet. "Where did you even get this ticket? You don't belong up here." Evelyn looked up. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." It wasn't loud, but it stopped Samantha cold for half a second, long enough for a ripple of discomfort to move through the cabin. The young attendant near the galley, Lena Torres's, shifted nervously. "Ma'am, maybe she stay out of this, Lena." Samantha cut her off. "Check her ticket again. These people print anything these days." Evelyn turned her gaze toward the window. Outside, clouds drifted like indifferent witnesses. Inside, judgment weighed heavier than air pressure. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now back to Evelyn Ross. Samantha crouched, gathering papers she herself had thrown, her tone dripping contempt. "Next time, learn where you belong." She shoved a wrinkled blazer back into the suitcase and snapped it shut, the click sharp final. Evelyn finally spoke, voice quiet but cutting. "You're right about one thing. Everyone here is going to learn where they belong." For a beat, no one breathed. The hum of the engines filled the void like a warning. Lena froze by the aisle, eyes darting between them, the glow from her tablet screen reflecting a single name on the passenger list, Evelyn Ross. And beside it, a tag she'd never seen before, owner priority, Horizon Air. The air in the cabin shifted. Samantha didn't notice yet, but Justice had already boarded the flight. The flight attendants pretended to resume service, but tension had already taken a seat of its own. The hum of the engines was steady, but every human breath inside the cabin carried static. Samantha's face stayed locked in its professional smile, but her jaw clenched hard enough to tremble. She turned to Lena, whispering through her teeth, "File a cabin note. Passenger and 2 amperes may be traveling on a fake ticket." Lena hesitated. She's listed as confirmed." "Then check again," Samantha hissed. People like her always find loopholes. Evelyn Ross didn't look up. She was folding each fallen paper one by one, placing them back into her briefcase. Every motion was deliberate, quiet, precise. It wasn't submission. It was control disguised as stillness. From across the aisle, a man wearing a business class badge leaned toward another passenger. "You'd think they'd vet people better for first class," he muttered. A soft laugh answered him, small and cowardly. Lena's screen blinked. A system error flashed, owner priority tag, restricted information. Her heart thudded. She looked up at Evelyn, then quickly looked away. She knew, and yet she couldn't say it. Samantha returned with false confidence. "Madame," she said louder now, so the entire cabin could hear, "until your details are verified, I'll have to move your bag to storage." Evelyn's eyes lifted. "It's fine where it is. I'm afraid it's not," Samantha replied, her hand already reaching for the suitcase. "Don't," Evelyn said softly. One word level as a flat horizon. The air shifted again. Even the passengers who'd been pretending to read paused mid-page. Lena whispered, "Samantha, maybe we should wait," but Samantha pulled the case anyway. The wheels scraped against the floor, a harsh metallic growl that cut through the hum of the jet. Evelyn's black blazer slipped out again, landing beside her shoes. She didn't move to pick it up. She only watched. In her mind, another image flickered, a hotel lobby years ago, marble floors, a clerk telling her the same line. "You don't belong here." That night, she'd slept in her car and started sketching the blueprint of what would one day become Horizon Air. The memory didn't sting anymore. It anchored her. "Security will meet you after landing," Samantha announced, glancing toward the cockpit door. "We take fraud very seriously." Someone near the back said quietly, "Fraud, she hasn't done anything." Samantha spun toward the voice. "Sir, please mind your own," Evelyn interrupted, still calm. "You're right, ma'am. You do take fraud seriously." Samantha blinked. "Excuse me," Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. "Which is why this incident will be reviewed by corporate integrity in about 10 minutes. Samantha laughed dryly. "Oh, sure. You're calling corporate from 30,000 feet. Evelyn slipped a small earpiece into her ear. Already did. For a moment, the hum of the engines seemed to dim. Lena's tablet buzzed again. A secure message flashed across the screen. "Horizon Internal Audit Cabin Feed initiated." Her eyes widened. She whispered. She wasn't bluffing. Samantha crossed her arms, her voice cracking slightly. "Whatever game you're playing ends now." Evelyn looked up at her tone, gentle but final. "It already ended. You just haven't realized who's playing." The aircraft seemed to hold its breath. The passengers did too. Justice was circling the cabin, silent, invisible, inevitable. The plane cut through clouds like a quiet blade, the engines humming steady. But inside first class, every second felt stretched thin. Samantha stood near the galley, pretending to check her service tablet, glancing at Evelyn every few seconds like she was a ticking device that might explode. Lena's hands fidgeted at her side. She wanted to say something to stop what was unfolding, but fear of hierarchy was a heavy thing. She'd seen Samantha turn on crew before. No one ever won. Across the aisle, a passenger early 30s camera slung around his neck slowly lifted his phone. His name was Marcus Dean, a travel vlogger with 500,000 followers. The red light blinked. He whispered to the woman beside him, "I'm filming this. The world needs to see how they treat her." Samantha caught the movement. "Sir, no recordings allowed on board." Marcus didn't lower the phone. "Then maybe you should stop giving them reasons to." A nervous chuckle rippled through the cabin. Someone else raised their phone too. Evelyn said nothing. She didn't have to. The pressure of silence was doing the work for her. Samantha took a breath, forcing a smile. "Fine. Let's stay professional. I'll just move this bag and we'll all forget about it." She reached again for Evelyn's suitcase. Evelyn's voice came low. "Miss Hayes." The way she said it stopped Samantha's hand midair. There was no anger, no raise in pitch, just authority, the kind that belonged to someone who signed checks, not bought tickets. "You've said enough," Evelyn continued, "for both of us." Lena's tablet vibrated once more. A message banner slid across the top. "Internal review recording. Live feed confirmed." She stared at it, throat tight. Evelyn leaned back slightly, her gaze drifting to the ceiling panels where the small security camera blinked red. "Good," she murmured almost to herself. "Let's make sure everything's on record," Marcus whispered. "Oh, she knows." Samantha scoffed, trying to recover ground. "Ma'am, you can't just..." Evelyn turned to her. "Tell me, Miss Hayes. How long have you worked here?" Samantha frowned. 5 years. "Why?" Evelyn nodded slowly. "Then you've had 5 years to learn the company values? And today you showed none of them." That line landed like gravity. The passengers felt it before they understood it. Samantha blinked. "Wait, what company values?" Evelyn met her eyes. "Horizon Air." The name hit the cabin like a dropped glass. Lena's lips parted. Marcus lowered his phone, whispering, "Oh my God." Evelyn turned back toward the window, her voice barely above a whisper. "I built it to fly above prejudice. And yet here we are, outside the clouds, split apart, light pouring through like judgment itself." For several seconds, no one moved. The name Horizon Air hung in the cabin like a verdict. Samantha blinked fast, trying to process what she'd just heard. "You built it? That's impossible. You're saying you, Evelyn, didn't look at her, founded it, expanded it. And now I'm watching it lose altitude one uniform at a time." Lena's pulse quickened. She knew the tone of corporate discipline. She'd heard it through intercoms during audits. But never this close. Never from a passenger. Samantha forced a laugh, desperate. "Okay, nice story. Anyone can say they're the CEO. Do you have proof?" Evelyn lifted a calm gaze. "You've been surrounded by proof since takeoff. You just refuse to see it." Her words were quiet, but they rippled through the cabin. The man in 2B who had laughed earlier sat back, now eyes lowered. The woman across the aisle clasped her purse tighter. The weight of collective shame filled the air like turbulence. Samantha snapped her fingers toward Lena. "Don't just stand there, verify her ID." Lena hesitated, fingers trembling as she tapped on the tablet. A warning flashed. "Restricted, owner-level access. Confirm via executive channel. Her breath caught. She turned the screen toward Samantha. For the first time, Samantha's confidence cracked. What is this? Lena whispered. It's real. She's on the owner manifest. The color drained from Samantha's face. Evelyn finally stood. Not fast, not theatrical, just a slow, deliberate rise that commanded gravity itself. Her voice was steady. You mistook silence for submission. That was your last mistake. Every passenger felt the words land. Marcus, still holding his phone, murmured, That line, wow. Samantha tried to recover, stammering. I didn't mean any disrespect, ma'am. It's just Evelyn held up a hand. Stop. Every apology offered after humiliation is just noise. You spoke with certainty. Now face its echo. The cockpit door opened slightly. The captain appeared, confusion on his face. Is everything all right here? Evelyn turned, her tone still composed. Everything's being handled internally, Captain. Please continue to your duties. Her calm authority made him step back without a word. Lena lowered her tablet, whispering to herself, She really owns the airline. Evelyn exhaled slowly, gathering her papers again, as if the storm hadn't just happened. Miss Hayes, she said evenly, when we land, you'll be escorted to the corporate office. HR will contact you before you have time to call them. Samantha swallowed hard. I understand. Evelyn met her eyes once more. Good, because understanding Miss Hayes was all you ever lacked. Outside the window, sunlight fractured across the wing like broken glass, turning to gold. The plane steadied, but the hierarchy inside had already flipped upside down. The plane leveled out, but the tension didn't. It hovered invisible yet heavy, pressing down like extra gravity. Every sound, every breath, every engine hum felt amplified. Samantha stood frozen in the aisle, trying to look composed, but her trembling fingers betrayed her. She glanced toward the front, maybe hoping the captain would intervene, maybe hoping to wake up from the moment she'd just created. But no help came. Lena stayed near the galley, clutching her tablet to her chest. She couldn't look away from Evelyn, the woman whose name sat beside owner priority on every Horizon Systems screen. Evelyn Ross, the reason they all had jobs, the reason this plane even existed. Please, Samantha finally said, voice lower now, let's just handle this privately. Evelyn's eyes didn't move. You made it public the moment you raised your voice. The passengers heard that. Every single one. The businessman in 2B lowered his phone. A woman whispered to her husband, She's the CEO. He murmured back, No way, she doesn't even look, then caught himself mid-sentence. The irony landed before he could finish. Samantha's face flushed. She bent to gather the last of the papers still scattered underfoot. Evelyn didn't stop her, just watched in silence as the same woman who'd once kicked her suitcase now knelt to pick up its contents. Lena took a step forward, cautious. Miss Ross, she said softly, I'm sorry. I should have stepped in sooner. Evelyn looked at her, and for the first time since the incident began, her tone softened. You did what you could. Sometimes silence is survival, but don't let it become your habit. Lena nodded, eyes wet. Marcus, still filming, whispered to his audience, We're watching something unreal. The flight attendant who mocked her is cleaning up her mess, literally. You can't script justice like this. Samantha shot him a glare. Turn that off. Evelyn spoke before he could answer. Let him film. Let them all see what accountability looks like. Her words didn't carry anger, they carried truth. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that teaches. A notification pinged from Lena's tablet. She read it aloud before she could think to stop herself. Corporate ethics notification, incident recorded. Temporary suspension initiated. Samantha's head snapped toward her. What did you just say? Lena looked up. It's already processing. Evelyn leaned back in her seat, calm again. Actions travel faster than apologies, Miss Hayes. That's why they catch up first. A ripple of quiet murmurs spread through the cabin. No one was laughing now. Phones were down, heads turned forward. Even the air felt different, lighter, clearer, like the moment after a storm passes. Evelyn closed her briefcase, folded her hands atop it, and looked out the window again. The clouds below shimmered in gold, reflecting the Sunday justice had altitude now. The captain's voice broke over the intercom, calm and neutral. Ladies and gentlemen, we may experience light turbulence. Please remain seated. But the real turbulence was already inside the cabin. Samantha's composure had completely unraveled. Her polished posture was gone. The sharp edges of confidence had turned into a desperate scramble for control. You can't suspend me mid-flight, she said, voice trembling. There's a procedure. HR has to. Evelyn didn't even turn her head. HR already knows. They're watching. Lena's tablet buzzed again. She looked down to see the message feed updating in real time. Audit file opened. Evidence uploading cabin feed timestamp 10:23 a.m. Her breath caught. It was official corporate headquarters was streaming this moment live. A few passengers exchanged glances. The businessman in 2B whispered, "So that's what real power looks like." The woman beside him replied, "No, that's what dignity looks like when it finally answers back." Samantha tried to steady her voice. "You can't just destroy my career like this." Evelyn finally turned. "Destroy it, no. You did that when you forgot who you were serving." There was no malice in her tone, only gravity. Like the voice of someone who had signed too many contracts, heard too many excuses. The silence that followed was heavy but not hostile. It was instructional. Everyone felt it. Lena took a hesitant step forward. "Miss Ross, what should I do?" Evelyn's gaze softened. "Continue your duties, Miss Torres. Treat every passenger the way you'd want to be remembered." Lena nodded quickly, then began moving down the aisle, straightening napkins and headrests, anything to keep from shaking. Marcus kept recording his whisper, barely audible to the mic. "She's teaching a masterclass in power. No shouting, no chaos, just truth." Samantha dropped into the jump seat near the galley head low. She looked smaller now, stripped of authority, wrapped in the quiet realization of consequence. Evelyn looked forward again. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the cabin window. For a second, she saw the young woman she used to be, the one turned away from a hotel lobby, humiliated but unbroken. The one who promised herself never again. The plane jolted slightly, a quick drop, then a rise. The passengers gasped. A few reached for armrests. Evelyn didn't move. Her calm was the kind you couldn't fake, the kind born from years of earning the right to sit still. As the cabin steadied, Lena looked toward her, voice small but certain. "Thank you for not letting her get away with it," Evelyn answered without turning. "We all fly safer when truth has wings." Outside sunlight broke through a thick layer of cloud, flooding the cabin with white gold. The turbulence faded, but the lesson stayed aloft, quiet, radiant, and irreversible. The city below began to emerge through the clouds, patches of skyline, threads of rivers, the slow geometry of a runway waiting far beneath them. But inside the cabin, time still felt suspended. Samantha's eyes were fixed on her lap. The once immaculate scarf around her neck was slightly crooked now, her hands clasped so tightly they'd gone pale. She hadn't spoken since the turbulence eased. Maybe she'd realized that silence could sting harder than confrontation. Lena moved quietly through the aisle, offering water to the passengers. A few nodded politely. Most simply watched Evelyn. Her calm had become its own form of gravity, pulling every gaze toward her. Evelyn didn't perform. She wasn't milking the moment. She was simply present, composed, whole, untouchable. Marcus lowered his camera for the first time since takeoff. "I think I've filmed enough," he whispered. The woman beside him asked, "Are you going to post it?" He shook his head slowly. "Not yet. Sometimes the world doesn't need proof. It needs reflection." Samantha finally stood, voice low. Ms. Ross's Evelyn lifted a hand. "Don't. Not now. But please, you've already said enough." Her tone wasn't cruel, it was final. Use the quiet to think about what made you loud in the first place. The cabin fell still again. Even the engines seemed to soften their roar. Lena's tablet chimed. A short message appeared. Corporate review completed. Action pending at landing. Await instructions. She exhaled, tension loosening in her shoulders. A passenger near the window, a gray-haired woman who had stayed silent until now, spoke softly. "Ma'am, I just wanted to say thank you for staying calm. People needed to see that." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Calm isn't weakness. It's control. It's the space where truth has room to speak." The woman nodded, eyes glassy. "I'll remember that." Outside, the captain's voice returned. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our descent into Atlanta. Please prepare for landing." Evelyn adjusted her seatbelt. The light caught her profile, the confidence of someone who had faced the ugliest version of disrespect and refused to match its volume. Samantha moved to the jump seat again, whispering to herself, maybe a prayer, maybe regret. Lena placed a hand briefly on her arm before returning to her station. "You still have a chance to apologize the right way," she said quietly. The intercom chimed. "Cabin crew, prepare for arrival." Evelyn's eyes drifted to the window. The runway was visible now, sunlight reflecting off the metal wings like a promise. Justice wasn't loud. It never needed to be. It simply waited like the ground beneath them, steady, inevitable, ready to meet them the moment they touched down. The landing gear extended with a heavy metallic thud. The sound rolled through the cabin like punctuation final irreversible. Passengers straightened in their seats, buckles clicked, and the faint scent of brewed coffee lingered in the air. But no one spoke. Evelyn sat upright, her hands folded neatly over her briefcase. She could feel the weight of eyes on her, but she didn't return a single glance. Dignity didn't need an audience. The aircraft tilted wheels, kissing the runway with a gentle screech. The city flashed by in fragments, hangars, terminals, morning light reflecting off glass like applause, too restrained to break the silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain's voice came over the intercom, "welcome to Atlanta. Please remain seated until we reach the gate." The moment the wheels steadied, Lena's tablet pinged again. She hesitated, then read the message silently. HR Directive, immediate offboarding. Samantha Hayes. Escort to terminal office upon arrival. Her breath caught. There it was. Final. Official. Samantha looked up as if sensing it. Her voice cracked. "Is that about me?" Lena didn't answer. She didn't have to. Evelyn finally turned to her voice even. "This isn't revenge, Miss Hayes. It's record-keeping." Samantha blinked fast, trying not to cry. "I was just doing my job." "I didn't mean," Evelyn interrupted gently. "Intent doesn't erase impact. You didn't just question a passenger, you questioned a person's worth. And that's not a policy issue, that's a character issue." Her words didn't carry malice, they carried weight. The kind that bends a person toward reflection. Marcus spoke from behind the camera. "Ma'am, I'll send this footage to your team if you want." Evelyn shook her head. "Keep it. People learn more from silence than from spectacle." The aircraft taxied toward the gate. Out the window, the Horizon Air logo gleamed across the terminal wall, blue and silver, the empire she'd built from nights sleeping in her car. She'd once dreamed of owning her sky. Now she protected it. The seatbelt light dinged off. Passengers began to rise, whispering small apologies with their eyes. One woman touched Evelyn's shoulder lightly and said, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry you had to go through that." Evelyn smiled faintly. "You didn't do it, but thank you for seeing it." As the door opened, a pair of uniformed ground supervisors entered quietly. "Miss Hayes," one of them asked. Samantha froze. Evelyn stood smoothing her blazer, every motion deliberate. She looked at Samantha one last time. "The next time you meet someone you underestimate, remember this moment. The altitude doesn't make you higher, how you treat people does." She stepped into the aisle, briefcase in hand. The cabin parted for her, not out of fear but respect. Outside the window, the sun hit the tarmac, spilling gold over the wing. The flight was over, but the lesson would travel farther than the plane ever could. The door hissed open and warm air from the terminal swept into the cabin. Atlanta sunlight cut through the jet bridge, bright and unapologetic. Evelyn stepped forward, her heels clicking softly against the aluminum floor. Every sound felt earned. Samantha lingered behind her, flanked by two Horizon ground supervisors in navy blazers. One of them, a tall woman with a tablet, spoke quietly. "Miss Hayes, please collect your badge." Her hands trembled as she unclipped the ID from her collar. The lanyard slid from her fingers like the final thread of authority. She glanced toward Evelyn, voice small. "You really don't have to do this?" Evelyn paused. "You're right, I don't. But if I don't, someone else will live through it next week." The words struck like truth often does, without anger, but impossible to ignore. Lena stood near the galley door, watching silently. She wanted to say goodbye, to thank Evelyn for showing what strength looked like without volume, but her throat wouldn't cooperate. As Evelyn entered the jet bridge, passengers began to follow. Some nodded to her respectfully. The man from seat 2B said quietly, "Ma'am, I learned something today." Evelyn didn't turn around. So did I. A small crowd had gathered near Gate 47, where another Horizon Air crew waited to board the next flight. They froze when they saw their CEO step off the plane, calm, composed, carrying no entourage. Only her briefcase and a silence that carried more authority than any uniform. One junior pilot whispered to another, "That's her." "Yeah," came the answer. "That's the one who built all this." The two supervisors guided Samantha through the jet bridge past Evelyn. For a heartbeat, the two women stood side by side, one stripped of her title, the other never needing one to begin with. Samantha's eyes glistened. "I'll lose everything." Evelyn's reply was soft. "Then build something better with what's left." She turned to Lena, who had just stepped out behind them. "Miss Torres," Evelyn said. Lena straightened instantly. "Yes, ma'am. Send an internal note to training and ethics. I want your report attached to this case. You'll be promoted to senior flight lead by next month." Lena blinked. "Ma'am, I don't know what to say." Then start with thank you, Evelyn said, a faint smile touching her lips. Gratitude is the first sign of leadership. Lena nodded, eyes bright, whispering, "Thank you, Miss Ross." Evelyn adjusted her briefcase strap and glanced once more at the plane she'd just left. The gleam of the Horizon Air logo reflected in her sunglasses. "Beautiful machine," she murmured, "but it's the people who keep it in the air." She walked away from Gate 47, each step precise, unhurried. Behind her, passengers watched, phones lowered, humbled by a lesson they didn't expect to witness at 38,000 feet, that true power doesn't need turbulence, only truth, altitude, and grace. The terminal was alive with noise-rolling suitcases, flight announcements, and the low murmur of travelers. But somehow around Gate 47 the air stayed hushed. The story had spread faster than any boarding call. A few passengers who had witnessed everything whispered to others, "That's her, the woman from first class." Evelyn walked through the crowd without a trace of self-importance. Her presence alone parted the noise. The world moved around her, but she moved through it like calm through a storm. Lena followed a few steps behind, still processing what she'd just lived. Her hands trembled slightly, but her heart felt steadier than it had in years. "Miss Ross," she called softly. Evelyn turned. "I've seen people get humiliated before," Lena said, "but I've never seen anyone win with silence." Evelyn studied her for a moment. "Silence isn't the opposite of power," she said. "It's what power sounds like when it's certain." Lena nodded slowly. "I'll remember that." They reached the Horizon Executive Lounge. The receptionist, who had been scrolling through a news alert on her tablet, looked up startled. The headline was already trending: "Flight attendant suspended mid-air after confrontation with airline CEO." The woman stood quickly, eyes wide. "Miss Ross, is everyone's talking about the flight?" Evelyn sighed, setting her briefcase down. "Let them talk. Maybe next time they'll listen." Across the terminal glass, the aircraft she'd arrived on was being serviced, cleaners, crew, mechanics moving in a quiet rhythm. She watched as a worker carefully loaded luggage into a new compartment, and for a fleeting second, the memory of her spilled suitcase replayed. The sound of it hitting the floor, the look in Samantha's eyes, the stillness she chose instead of rage. Evelyn spoke almost to herself. "It's never about the suitcase. It's about what people think belongs inside it." Lena tilted her head, unsure if she was meant to respond. Evelyn continued, her voice low but firm. "That's the thing about respect. It's not granted by uniforms or badges. It's measured by how you act when you think no one's watching." The receptionist cleared her throat gently. "Ma'am, corporate's asking if you'd like to release a statement to the press." Evelyn shook her head. "No statement. The footage speaks fine." She turned toward the large window, sunlight cutting across her reflection, half shadow, half flame. "The only statement that matters," she added, "is how we treat each other when the cameras turn off." A boarding announcement echoed overhead. Evelyn picked up her briefcase and walked toward the exit, her reflection trailing beside her like legacy itself. Behind her, Lena whispered to the receptionist, "That's what leadership looks like, isn't it?" The woman nodded slowly. "No," she said. "That's what justice looks like when it finally grows wings." And with that, Evelyn Ross disappeared into the terminal crowd, steady, composed, and unforgettable. The next morning, Horizon Air headquarters was unusually quiet. Glass walls gleamed in the early light, and the hum of keyboards had a cautious rhythms, as if the entire building was aware of what had happened 30,000 feet above the ground. Evelyn stepped out of the elevator, tailored gray suit, flawless eyes, calm but alert. The hallways parted before her. No one dared speak too loudly, yet everyone wanted to catch a glimpse of her, the CEO who'd handled injustice in silence and let the world do the shouting. In the conference room, the Board of Ethics and Operations was already waiting. Screens glowed with paused footage from the flight, Samantha's raised voice, the scattered papers, Evelyn's quiet defiance. A senior director stood as Evelyn entered. "Miss Ross, we've concluded the internal review. The evidence was clear. The attendant has been dismissed with cause. She's asked to send you a letter of apology." Evelyn set her briefcase on the table. "She doesn't owe me a letter," she said evenly. "She owes herself a lesson." The director nodded, unsure how to respond. "Understood." "And the media say they'll move on," Evelyn replied. "They always do. But our employees won't forget what they saw. Make sure this becomes part of our new onboarding training." Her tone was cool, directive, but beneath it was compassion shaped by discipline. She wasn't trying to ruin anyone. She was trying to raise a standard. From the far end of the room, Lena stood nervously. She'd been invited to the debrief, still in uniform, still slightly overwhelmed. Evelyn gestured for her to sit. "You spoke when it mattered," Evelyn said. That's not small. It's leadership. Lena smiled timidly. I just didn't want to stay quiet anymore. Evelyn nodded. Good. Remember that. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers and you just have to be the one who listens. The board members exchanged glances. Even the air seemed lighter. One executive cleared his throat. Miss Ross, would you like us to prepare a public statement for the brand? Evelyn leaned back in her chair, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. No brand statement, she said. People saw what happened. That's all the statement we need. The truth doesn't need marketing. The room fell silent. After the meeting, Evelyn walked to the large window overlooking the runway. A Horizon jet was taking off sunlight, glinting off its wings. She watched it climb the engines, thundering softly through the glass. Her reflection hovered over the view, a woman who had been dismissed, doubted, underestimated, and who never once had to raise her voice to rise above it all. She whispered mostly to herself, let them climb higher, but never forget who taught them how to fly. Behind her, Lena stood in quiet admiration, understanding that this wasn't just leadership, it was legacy in motion. The plane disappeared into the clouds, leaving nothing but calm air and the echo of integrity filling the sky. Weeks passed, yet the story refused to land. Clips of that flight circulated online, no shouting, no chaos, just a quiet woman reclaiming her dignity mid-air. Hashtags rose and faded, but the message stayed. Power doesn't always raise its voice. Inside Horizon Air's training center, a new module played for recruits Case 11, of the first-class incident. The footage paused on Evelyn's calm face as she said, You mistook silence for submission. That was your last mistake. Every trainee in the room went silent. No one needed the narrator to explain what had gone wrong. Evelyn didn't attend the session. She was in the air again, seated by the window, watching sunlight scatter across the clouds like gold dust. She preferred this part of her work, the quiet altitude, the reminder of why she'd built Horizon in the first place. The attendant serving her today was new, nervous but kind. She smiled, offered coffee, and said, Ma'am, I just wanted to say thank you for setting the standard. Evelyn smiled back. You're welcome. Just remember, respect shouldn't need an audience. As the attendant walked away, Evelyn leaned against the glass. The world below looked small, tiny grids of light and motion, unaware of the lessons flying above it. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lena, promotion confirmed. Starting new route next month. Thank you for everything. Evelyn typed one reply, led with empathy. It travels farther than wings. She locked her phone, folded her hands, and closed her eyes. The engines roared softly, steady, unbroken. Outside, a beam of sunlight traced the edge of the wing. Her voice echoed in memory, calm and clear. Respect doesn't cost a ticket. It costs character. And as the plane cut through the clouds, light above, shadow below, Evelyn Ross smiled. She hadn't just built an airline. She'd built altitude for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. Justice had flown that day, and it never planned to land.